Thank you very much, Luke. That's Stop Press Somerset. If we didn't mention an event you've got on the go today, then give us a call or drop us a text, or you can always email if you like, and we'll pass it on to Charlie Taylor, and he will add it to the guide later on when he's here after 10. Now, here's the thing. It's 8:53, and there is a classic song by Flanders and Swan that you're bound to know because of the chorus line that is...
Mud, mud, glorious mud. Nothing quite like it for cooling the blood. So follow me, follow, down to the hollow, and there let us wallow in glorious mud.
Yeah, glorious mud they're singing there. You can tell they'd never been to Watchet, because if they had, they would have had a very different song, because the mud there can be a bit tricky and can be a little bit problematic too. In fact, if you've been to Watchet in the summer, then you will possibly have seen the town's harbour, the silt and the mud being pumped over the back wall back out to sea to free up the waterway for boat access. Well, it also doesn't look nice, but it's quite expensive and has to be repeated at regular intervals. But now a local group has come up with a cunning plan that is cheaper, quieter and a more efficient way of solving the problem. They held a meeting in the town last night to discuss it. Let's get the results of that from Brian Mitchell from the aptly named Silt and Mud Group in Watchet. Good morning, Brian.
Good morning, how are you?
I'm really good, thank you. More importantly, how are you after your meeting last night?
Encouraged. It's not straightforward by any means. We are an advisory body, but it looks like we might be turning into a campaigning body.
Okay. Well, thank you for giving us that scoop this morning. So firstly, tell us about what it's like now and what your plan is to make it better.
Okay. Well, we've got to start with our situation. We're in a tidal estuary, and mud is part of that. It's never going to change. We're always going to have to deal with mud. Unfortunately, for the past 10 years, it's been getting on top of us. And less than half of what comes in is sent out with the aforementioned, you mentioned shooting mud over the wall. But there's more coming in than going out. So now we've got, my estimate, 35,000 tonnes of mud in the harbour, and instead of 2.5 metres of clear water, we have got 2.5 metres of mud. It's going to take some moving.
Yeah, and it doesn't look nice, and so, for everyone it would be good. As we say, it sort of hampers the boats coming in and out. So what can you do with it then?
We come together as an advisory body because we saw that the mud situation wasn't being managed. We felt that there was another way to do it. We've come up with another way of doing it, and that is we're fortunate enough to have got on site a mud engineer with 25 years experience, North Sea, deep diving, etc. It's not a new technology, it's called airlift. Airlift dredging, they call it, but it's not really dredging, but I'll explain that as we go on. If I can revert to the word dredging, this is the confusion. Are we dredging or are we dumping? In order to move material from the harbour, there is an argument that we need a dredging licence. The contrary argument for our airlift is that we're not dredging. Neither are we dumping. We are sending the mud out in suspension on the ebb tide. So we're not actually seeking to dump mud in preordained spots around the estuary where mud is normally dumped.
Okay, so who do you have to convince that is the case?
I have to convince the harbour authorities. There is a harbour board. But above that, there is an advisory board, and I've already made a presentation to them of our method, which involves lifting the mud into suspension using compressed air.
Right.
So it's a very environmentally friendly thing to do. Nothing like what you've seen happening last summer over the wall. It's environmentally friendly.
Okay. It doesn't sound like it's going to be cheap, though.
Well, to manage any situation, it has to be done within budget. And why it's not successfully managed at the present is because it's not done within budget. We feel that this airlift dredging method will be much more, well, first of all, it will be cheaper, but it will be within budget. So we're talking probably half the figures that are currently being bandied around. In fact, to get rid of the mud currently, the council is looking to do what they call a capital dredge. That's going to cost £500,000. £500,000, and where is this money coming from? It's certainly other people's money, because neither the council have got it, neither of the marina. So we are pushing as hard as possible to introduce this planned maintenance system so that we don't get into this state into the future.
And so where are we up to then? Like you say, the meeting was last night. What happens next? How long before you get a breakthrough or you're knocked back?
Thank you. Well, at the moment, we're a little bit knocked back because into the mix has been the suggestion that we need a dredging licence.
Yeah, you said this, yeah.
The only way to overcome that is for us to approach the Secretary of State, unless, of course, the council are minded to review their current thinking. And the Secretary of State actually set up the advisory board, it's a statutory board, in order to advise the harbour.
Right.
It seems that we've got an impasse here, and so therefore we may have to go to the Secretary of State to get his ruling on whether or not we can do a simple exercise to prove our theory. Remember that what we're doing, airlift dredging, has never been used in this way anywhere. It's a known technology that will lift mud and send it into suspension, but it's never been used in harbours.
Okay.
The reason it's never been used in harbours is it's inefficient in terms of energy input compared with the normal systems.
Right, really interesting finding out about it this morning, and do keep us posted as to how things progress, particularly if you go to the Secretary of State. Thank you, Bryan.
For views.
For voices.
For Somerset. Because there's no place
like home.